Let us pray. Almighty and eternal God, you who created us and called us good, you who tell us you have great plans for us, you who tell us to follow, we thank you. We thank you for the ways you show us that you love us. We thank you for the blessings that you've given this class, the blessings of their family and their friends, their faith, their health. Send your Holy Spirit to be with us today, a spirit of creativity, spirit of understanding, wisdom, and love. Send that spirit. Bestow that spirit upon these young women and men. Help us as we come and celebrate their accomplishments. Remember that it's you who work in and through them. Help us to do your will. Help us to show your love. We ask this in all things. In your holy name, amen.
All right, please be seated. Today we celebrate simply an amazing group of young women and men who join the proud ranks of Lumiere alums out there in the world representing the ideals of this place. Seniors, one of the things I hope you're feeling as you sit here this morning is a sense of pride, which is why it might seem bizarre to start off by talking about humility. After all, humility and pride are set up as opposites. One a virtue, the other its vicious counterpart. I'd say, though, that if paired together, they actually work just fine on an occasion like today. Teresa of Avila was big on humility. She defined it as living in the truth. And the truth to which she referred was one of dependence. Each of you receiving a diploma is the person you are today because of a staggering amount of time, love, and attention that's been poured into you day in and day out for almost 2 decades by a host of people. I doubt you can comprehend the extent of their efforts or the fullness of their sacrifice. Nevertheless, let's balance our pride by modeling a little humility and acknowledging our dependence on and gratitude for the folks who have made this all possible. So if we could start by asking parents of graduating seniors to please stand up. And you can sit down, I suppose. Could we ask grandparents of graduating seniors to please stand up? And if our faculty and staff could please stand up. Finally, if I could ask our trustees, past and present, to stand up. Thank you. So seniors, take a quick second to let that sink in. You have a veritable mob of people who care about you and are beaming with pride themselves for what you've accomplished. So you can go ahead and be proud too. Now I'll ask Will Lingle, our Assistant Head of School for Academics, to present the awards.
Good morning. Today I have the privilege of announcing the Major School Awards to students who have shown exemplary character, scholarship, and faith during their careers at La Lumiere School. Starting with the James R. Moore Scholar Athlete Award. This year's recipients, Elizabeth Grady Kennedy and George McLean Eisenhower. The Head of Schools Award for Growth and Development, given each year to recognize one or more students who have demonstrated during their tenure here a growth in character, academic achievement, and commitment to the school. This year's recipients, Ethan Daniel Path and Shui Ji Hao. The Senior Award for Stellar Academic Performance, given each year to recognize outstanding academic achievement during the student's career at La Lumiere. This year's recipient, Olivia Rose Dibbing. The Senior Award for Service to Younger Students, given in recognition of one or more seniors who continually demonstrate a willingness to serve underclassmen in academic, athletic, extracurricular, and/or dorm life activities. This year's recipient, Jack Elliott Breidowich. The One of Us Award, given each year to a senior student who are selected by the vote of upperclassmen or underclassmen in our community to say, we appreciate you, we respect you, we like you. This year's recipient, Joshua Paul D. St. Jean. The Alan R. Hannon Unsung Hero Award, given each year in recognition of the student who by quiet example has worked hard to improve the quality of life here at La Lumiere. This year's recipient, Emily Marie Path. The Trustees Award for Leadership Based on Character, given each year for the senior student who has demonstrated exemplary leadership and character, whether or not they have held a formal elected office. This year's recipient, Elizabeth Grady Kennedy. The La Lumiere Alumni Memorial Award. It is bestowed each year in recognition of the senior student who best portrays the La Lumiere ideal. This award is given as a tribute to deceased alumni and students whose character, scholarship, and faith are respectfully acknowledged and fondly remembered. This year's recipient, Olivia Rose Dibbing. At this time, I would like to introduce our head prefect, Elizabeth Grady Kennedy, to deliver her address.
A while ago, I came across an op-ed article in the New York Times by David Brooks called The Moral Bucket List. In this piece, he talks about the people who he had come across in his life who he believed radiated an inner light and were inherently good people. He goes on to say that he's come to realize that there are two kinds of virtues in the world: resume virtues and eulogy virtues. Resume virtues refer to, quote, the skills you bring to the marketplace, which are things you're good at, your peeper skills, your IQ, etc. Eulogy virtues, he says, quote, are the ones that are talked about at your funeral, whether you are kind, brave, honest, or faithful. In his article, Brooks goes on to criticize society for valuing resume virtues over eulogy virtues. He came to the conclusion that wonderful people are made, not born, and so set out to create his own moral bucket list to achieve a more rounded inner self. This idea of two kinds of virtues struck me. I feel like many of us, and especially students our age, value and are measured by the resume virtues, the report cards, the standardized test scores, the awards and recognitions. But something I've noticed at Lumiere is that many of us, students, faculty, and staff, value the eulogy virtues more. It has been here, in this place, that we have learned to value and respect the humanity in each of us, which I think is so much more important than any grade we received or test score we achieved. It's not that we don't value resume virtues. We just choose to celebrate both and look at each student as a whole person, as having a mix of both resume and eulogy virtues, which together I've decided to call the LALU virtues. Now, I've been here a long time. I've seen many students and teachers come and go, and although each of them was different, they all left changed by this incredible place, and hopefully instilled with three virtues I would consider these LALU virtues: a deep respect for differences, an appreciation for the importance of community and belonging, and a better sense of who they are and what they want to achieve, or a self-awareness. Let me start with the first virtue, a deep respect for differences. In this small school community, we have a great microcosm of the world. Much has been said about diversity in the recent years. We have lived an extraordinary experience of diversity on this campus, and it has made our shared experiences more meaningful. Living and going to school with people from different countries is something that most people don't experience until they reach college, and we were able to create real relationships with such a wide range of people at such an important time in our lives. I remember when Lucia came our sophomore year through her exchange program, and how many connections she made in her short time here. It was so hard for many of us to see her leave, but then so happy to see her decide to come here to finish high school. Hide Kobayashi spoke just a week ago at the senior candle ceremony about how much he appreciated how Henry, his parents, and his sisters treat him as a member of their family, being so far from home. These experiences make LALU so special. This school, being so small, is the ideal place to make real connections and relationships with others that will last a lifetime, no matter where you're from. Now on to the second virtue, the importance of community. We've been given a gift here at Lumiere, the gift of belonging. It's something that people seek out their entire lives. Think back to freshman year, the first day of orientation week. You're introduced to so many new people, you're assigned to a head cup team, you follow a group blindly into a small room to share personal details of your life with strangers who seem to care a lot about you. The older students and teachers want you to feel comfortable, but also be engaged in new experiences. This is LALU. The importance of community is cultivated by many events throughout the year that are both centered and dependent on the LALU family of students, teachers, parents, and alumni. Events like bookstore basketball, orientation week, and the taste truly celebrate every member of the school and embrace the differences, no matter the food you make, how good you are at scavenger hunts, or the level of basketball skill you possess. skill being used loosely in this sense. Everyone is included regardless. It also speaks to the sense of community of our school that alumni remain connected, whether it be giving to the school, attending events, or even sending their kids here. They value and cherish their time here and relationships they made. It's true that the L's really never come off. Now on to the third virtue, the experience of self-awareness. Over our time here, we have worked to find ourselves, what subjects we like, what activities we're good at, and the things in which we find joy. Through the focus on our character, scholarship, and faith, whatever each may look like, we have grown into the people we are today. Our theme this year was the saying, "Be present." This mantra helped us to focus on both the little things in our own lives, but also those of others around us. I believe that high school is one of the hardest parts of your life. We have lost many family members and have struggled to work together and support each other. We have said goodbye to close friends and teachers one by one, year after year, and today we are the ones saying goodbye. Thank you all for being present with me throughout the 4 years, for the legacy we leave together. So today, I challenge you, myself included, to take these Lalu virtues and actually do something with them in the world. Continue to acknowledge and respect the differences in people around you. Become engaged in the community you join next fall. I'm not going to give you advice, but I will invite you, my classmates, the undergrads, faculty and staff, to appreciate what we have been given, the gift of a Lumiere education, an experience that lasts a lifetime, relationships that form who we are. Embrace our good fortune, enjoy these connections, make a difference where you are, and remember, you are always, and we are always, connected to Lalu. I've realized that it's incredibly hard to summarize 4 years of your life, or 14 in my case. As I stated in my senior chapel, being here for so long has given me perspective. I have seen how the school works from behind the scenes, and it is truly incredible to see to have experienced the dedication and devotion to the school by each and every faculty and staff sitting to my right and left over the years. They, along with our fellow classmates, have been the ones who have instilled these Lalu virtues in us. These virtues are what allow us, and all of the graduates who have come before us, to discover our path. Each of us has been given a gift, a light, from this incredible school in the woods. It's now our duty to take this, go out, radiating and sharing this light with the world. We must do as St. Catherine of Siena once said, "Be who you are created to be, and you will set the world on fire." Thank you, class of 2018, and thank you, Lumiere.
Thank you, Lily. You've once again, as always, represented yourself and your class with grace and poise. And I know that the impact you and your family have made on this school isn't lost on the group gathered here today. To carry the mantle as you have was no small task, so well done. Our next speaker is an immigrant from Hong Kong. When she was growing up, Carolyn witnessed the role that her mother and many women like her played in their society, dependent entirely on their husbands, given a passive backseat role. While her brothers were pushed to become a doctor or a lawyer, no real hopes or dreams were expressed or invested in for Carolyn and her sisters. At the age of 18, however, she was determined to shape her own life. She saved $1,600, the exact price of a year's tuition, borrowed money from her brother for dorm fees, and flew to America to enroll at Purdue University, a school she had heard about from a professor she met while working a weekend job during high school. Her first year there, she applied for a rare scholarship as an international undergrad, as it was her only hope of continuing college here. She took 42 credit hours her freshman year, which, by the way, seniors, I do not recommend. And through sheer will and work ethic, earned a full ride for the next 3 years. Upon learning of the scholarship, she immediately signed up for summer courses and set her sights not on just graduating, but also getting her master's and doctorate degrees. Carolyn did just that and holds a PhD in strategic management. It would take too long even to summarize the major achievements she's tallied since. And in the back of your program, we've highlighted just a few. But beyond her bio, I want to point out why we've asked her to come and speak to our school on this important sending forth. Carolyn is here today as an example of someone who has leveraged her gifts to make an enormous difference in the world. She's a deeply devoted woman of faith who has lived out the message of God's love with as much commitment as anyone I've ever met. You want scale? Carolyn ran a global humanitarian agency with an annual budget of just under $1 billion and operations in over 100 countries. The work that organization does benefits and empowers the poorest of the poor, and specifically combats the hardships caused by natural disasters, HIV/AIDS, and conflict. They focus on the dignity of each human being they encounter and help improve the circumstances of each through peace building, economic development, and environmental stewardship. Oh, and that was after a 14-year stint as Dean of Notre Dame's Business School, where she coined the term "ask more of business" and built an unparalleled program focused on what was at the time a novelty, what it could mean for business to be a force for good. When I was finishing graduate school while she was dean, I requested an appointment with Carolyn to ask her for some life advice. I didn't realize that a conversation with Carolyn is basically like consulting an oracle. My wife and I moved to Cambodia to help run an educational nonprofit at Carolyn's suggestion. And when we returned, she's the one who hired me to help get a Center for Ethical Leadership off the ground at Notre Dame. In fact, this is the first job I've taken in more than a decade that she didn't ask me to do. Beyond the personal debt of gratitude that I owe her for my own life path, what I'm most grateful for and why I'm so thrilled you get to hear from her today is the example of her life. She has shown that an abiding commitment to the gospel message doesn't have to be a side project. It can be your career. That mission-driven work can also be held, and in fact should be held, to exacting standards. That real impact and leadership happens not by keeping up with peer institutions and current trends, but by blazing a bold path with a clear vision of what the world needs. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me enormous joy to introduce to you Dr. Carolyn Wu.
It's a tremendous privilege to be with you. I came to La Lumiere about a couple months ago to meet with Lily and Adam, and I was so taken by this school, by its mission, by the culture, by the sense of belonging and community. And just seeing the students, all of you here, I know this is Memorial Day weekend, but to honor your commitment to be here for the graduating seniors, as other will be for you, there's something that tugged at my heart of what a wonderful place for young people to be formed, to know all of the wonderful things. Before I go into the comments, I just want to say Jackie and Adam went to Cambodia. I mean, you leave everything behind. They had great jobs and so on. I think it was before the children. But to help run a not-for-profit, which was also started by another young woman, the people who really take it to themselves. And the mission of this particular not-for-profit is to educate young girls, because girls in Cambodia, they come from poor families. Many of them do not have the opportunity to go to school. Sometimes parents cannot afford fees. And also when young girls start to develop their period, they actually don't have the wherewithal to go to school because they don't have any feminine products. Just think about that as an obstacle. And the way this nonprofit supports, where do they find the money to support this particular cause? They started a touring business, which is American tourists come and they lead them on these bicycle tours around Cambodia so that they could generate the revenues to send the girls to school. Just think about the passion behind it, the creativity behind it, and also the fun behind it. And I think they had a program where if the girl has perfect attendance, she will get a bike when she graduates. So you talk about how to solve problems, how to empower people. In some ways, it's a simple model, but it has so much power in it. And so today we celebrate you. You're on a journey, and some of you will do that sort of work. And I think many of you, not just not-for-profit, you could go into government, you could go into business, you can go into all sorts of ventures. And all ventures can be for good if you have the right heart and the right intention. And what a special day for the parents. I've been in your seats as a graduate. I've been in the seats as faculty member, as a guest, but I've been also in those seats as a parent. There's nothing that compared to the experience of a parent going through this. It's just such a day. It's a holy day. It's a day of recognizing all the blessings in our lives and the power of love on this journey. And for graduates, it's not just a diploma, it's not just an entry sort of pass into college and bigger things, but I think it's knowledge itself is just such a powerful key. It's the key to so many things. It's the key to knowing the world, the key to knowing people, their behaviors, and their incredible discoveries and creations. It's the key also for locating yourself in the world. What do you want to do? What part of it fascinates you? Where do you want to sort of locate yourself in your career as well as in your academic studies? And importantly, it's also the key to giving back. And I think you have learned that the fuel to this knowledge requires discipline. What forges this knowledge is really the discipline that you applied in learning, and hopefully curiosity, as well as some degree of the fun in learning. So congratulations, and really look forward to fun and good things to come. I want to share just 4 points I have learned in my journey. The first, I want to begin with a story. I'm sure as you leave here, you have all sorts of questions. Will I make it? You know, I did well in La Lumiere, but would I do well in my next step? I came from such an incredible community where everybody is kind. Everybody takes the trouble to get to know you. But now I'm going into, quote unquote, sort of the real world when people are probably competitive. Are they kind? Can I trust them? Would they make a place for me? Will they be kind to me? Would they like me? So there are all these questions about the next step. So I want to locate myself when I was your age, starting my first days at Purdue University. As Adam told you, I was a foreign student. I grew up in a city. the first task I have is to read a map to go to this place to sign up for my courses. And I was early as a foreign student, so there were not a lot of other people around. So, okay, I was ready to go. But map reading was not one of my skills. When you grow up in a city, you just memorize the bus route. Take bus 11A. Go to that tall building and take a right. You know, there's no maps, just bus routes. But anyway, so I went to sign up for classes and somehow ended up at the music organization and band's office, right? So I went in there and I said, I'm here to sign up for courses. So I'm sure they know something was wrong, and they said, Miss Wu, this is not the place where you sign up for courses. I was probably homesick and nervous and scared. Tears just started coming down. And at the back of my mind was, a person who couldn't find the right place to sign up for courses will certainly fail. You know, this is a big leap. I can't read a map. I can't find the right building. I can't sign up for courses. I'm about to fail. You know how all of this thinking comes together. So big tears came, and I already felt like a failure on my first day. But a receptionist there was so kind, and they said, you're not far from the building. Let me just take you where you need to sign up for courses. And she did two other things. She, first of all, asked me, she said, do you have a religion? I said, I'm Catholic. So she called the Catholic Center on campus and said, we have a new student here. You really should see her. Her name is Carolyn. She'll come by to see you. I'll give her directions. The second thing she did was that she asked me what my intended college was, and she called the academic advisor. I just want to say the priest who greeted me that day 40-some years ago is still a very good friend. The Catholic Center there welcomed me. They made me part of their family. I got all the treats that people sent to the priest there. And for my academic advisor, a wonderful professor by the name of Glenn Griffin, not only did he help me with the courses, that night he and his wife Florence came to pick me up at the dorm to take me to for a tour of campus to the horticulture park. And every year for my birthday, he and his wife would welcome me and my friends from the dorm for cake and coffee. That was his gesture to me. And I cannot tell you how many kind people I encountered. The counselor in the dorm, my classmate, other people in the residence hall who took me to their home, a lady at church who invited me to her home for Thanksgiving dinner, so on and so forth. In all of the positions that I have, the nominations to serve on different boards for different awards, as many of you have received, I just always remember there is somebody behind the scene saying good things about you, extending a hand, bringing honor to you. And it's somebody else who does it. You don't nominate yourself. This is the crux of my first point. And that is, in many ways, we live in a world which has a lot of issues, a lot of disagreements, resentments, some degree of exclusion, the lack of peace, the lack of civility at the level of between peoples, between political parties, between people of different ideologies, even to the extent where there are wars and major conflicts around the world. We think about that and we shake our heads. But the first point I want to recover is that there is a lot of kindness out there. There's a lot of goodness in people. And we've also been the beneficiary of people's generosity, sometimes in ways that we don't even know it. We don't know the faculty member who really sort of went out of the way to make sure a student learned. We sometimes don't see the registrar who makes sure that you are all set for courses, or the financial aid person who really dig deep to find financial aid for you. Behind my whole education is an anonymous donor who gave a fellowship. So I could never be cynical. And I hope that you look into your lives and never be cynical, because you have to recover all the good things which have happened in your life and the people behind it. So never be cynical, no matter how broken the world is. Always recover, the goodness and the generosity and the compassion in people. The second point then is turning the table. I mentioned the kindness of other people. So the question to you is, therefore, who are you to other people? Or how are you to other people? What are your relationships? What is the quality of those relationships? I was at some airport riding in a shuttle train, and there was one of those advertisements of the mall inside the airport. And it says, style is the way to tell people who you are without speaking a word. I looked at that sign and said, what a terrible statement. Style is the way we tell people who we are without saying a word. But then it caught me. I said, if it's not the word style, what word would I give it? What is the way we tell people who we are without speaking? And in fact, I invite you to hold on to that question and have your own answer. And sometime during this weekend, talk to your classmates, talk to your parents, talk to your grandparents, and ask them, what would be your answer to Carolyn Wu's question? Right? So my own answer is, I think relationship is the way we tell people who we are without speaking a word. I know nowadays there's a lot of breaking of promises on campus. So you tell someone on Monday, Thursday, Friday, I'd like to do things. Are you in for this? Do you want to come along and do this with us? Well, somebody said yes. Okay. But then Thursday came along and you found something better on Friday that does not include the friend. So you write an email, oh, I'm so sorry, I have studying to do tomorrow. All right? That is a reflection of how we manage relationships. In fact, God comes to us through relationship. God reveals himself in relationship. The Trinity is a relationship. Making Adam and Eve together to go through life is about relationship. Jesus coming into the world to be with us is a relationship. The apostles is not one. And when Jesus sent them out to work, they said 2 by 2. You go out 2 by 2. So I just want to say, the people around us are not random. They're God's gift to reveal who he is in our own lives. C.S. Lewis has a line which says, other than the Eucharist, the holiest object you can engage is the person next to you. That there is no ordinary person. Pope Francis always used the word engage. He tells us to go out and engage people, particularly people we don't know very well. And theologian Bonhoeffer actually defines engagement. He said engagement is to look at the person. Each face is unique, tells a story, and we cannot stereotype when we look at someone's face. The second is to listen to the person. The third is to share and talk with the person, because in talking and sharing, you deposit something of yourself in that person, and you take something of that person into yourself. And this changes both parties. And the fourth thing he said was, it is not enough to just be with the person. You have to be for the person. And in fact, in all of my leadership roles, and it starts with student organizations actually, I have found that we want a lot from people. We tell them what to do, we have performance objectives, we have performance review, and so on. So we know what we want from people. But people actually do not respond the best that they can unless they also know, what do you want for them? And I'm sure in a place like La Lumiere, your faculty has been very demanding, sometimes against your wishes, sometimes more than what you think they should expect from you. But at the back of your mind, you know that they want the best for you. And that's why they want what they want from you. In my own graduation, there was a speaker, Stephen Smith. This is decades ago. He said something I never forgot. He said, charisma, and think about charisma. And charisma is not really in JC or Beyonce or whatever. Charisma accrues to people who could attract other people. And he said, charisma is the ability to take people as you find them, to like them for who they are, and to not despise them for what they are not. And I just want to say, I used to go to a lot of dinner functions, and I'm just not really keen on dinner functions. There's a lot of small talk. And I would used to move the table assignments around so that I could sit with my friends, and usually they're the ones who laugh the loudest at the table. Right? A very terrible habit, actually. But I finally realized that that's very immature, and my job was to be a host, that's not a good thing to do it. So I decided that I would be committed to my table. Wherever I'm assigned, I will stay there. And whoever are my guests, I would pay attention to them. So I started this thing where, and I'm a nosy person by nature. You could put anyone in front of me and I could start a conversation. Oh, where are you from? What do you do? Why do you choose to do that? Do you have a family? How did you meet your husband? What do you want for your children? What do you want for your grandchildren? If you could live any place in the world, where would it be? So I could just go on and on. And I'm curious. I really do want to know. I learn a lot from people. And at the end of it, they will say, she is very smart. All right? And I didn't say one word, that is smart. I didn't make one opinion. I didn't have one declarative statement that shows that I'm smart. But when you do honor to other people, they are just lifted up. And as a result, they also reflect that grace to you. So that's my second point, is who you are in your relationship really matters. And actually to remember that as people are answers to our prayers, we too are the answer to other people's prayers. We don't realize that, but every morning, just remember, you are the answer to people's prayers on God's behalf. A kind word, an extra gesture, other things. The third point I have, and you look so warm, I am too, is about success. I think all of you will succeed because you have already succeeded. You know what it takes. You have the natural gifts, and you have such a great foundation. And I think we are meant to enjoy our success. I think God wants us to succeed because developing our gifts so that they could be used, so that we could help in God's world, is what God intends us to be. But I just want to have a few side notes to that success. The gospel seldom asks us to be successful, but it asks us to be fruitful. Fruitful. Think about your favorite fruit. Mine is the peach, right in July and August when it is so sweet and the juice just run down your chin. And there's a sense of what a wonderful gift. I think we are to be fruitful, which means that we are to be of value, of a contribution to other people. That's what, in the end, success is about. I think we also need to enjoy our success and our achievement, but there are two things which diminish it. Sometimes we diminish our own achievements because they're not as great as somebody else, or they didn't come as early, the recognition, as somebody else. So somehow we take a haircut on ourselves because of other people. How we compare ourselves relative to other people. And that's really a useless activity. Don't compare. Just enjoy your achievement on an absolute level. The other way that we could diminish it is when we use it as a club over other people. We use our own achievements and whatever gifts that we have to diminish others. So don't diminish yourself and don't diminish other people by your achievements. More important than achievements for me when I now look at resume, I have the question, and it's never reflected in the resumes. I would ask, how did you honor the responsibility that was given to you? How did you honor the fact someone trusts you and give you responsibility? How did you honor the people who depended on your service? How did you honor your colleagues? And more important, how did you honor yourself? They look at me kind of like, my gosh, what does honor mean? What does it mean to honor the trust which is given to me? I think that is very important. The third thing, going back to the gospel, Matthew 25, where Jesus basically said the worth of all of our work over a lifetime, the worth of our work is how we treat the poor. And so I know many of you will be seeking recommendation letters in your journey, but the most important recommendation is actually that which will come from the poor, the marginalized, the people who couldn't give you anything. How did you treat them? And what would they say about you? That's the ultimate recommendation. The fourth and final thing is that I went into college with a lot of worries. I worried myself to death. I had only 1 year of tuition. What would second year look like? I went to graduate school. Would I make it in graduate school? And then I worried about getting a job, and I worried about getting tenure in my job. I was a basket of worries. I was a worrier. But one thing I have learned is that we never go through life alone. God is with us. God made a promise. I will never leave you orphans. And if there's anything you know about God, it's that he keeps his promises. He just didn't say it for the fun of it or to make you have a good day. He means it. And the second, the God who makes his promise is a very generous God. And I truly believe when we pray and don't get what we want, it's because he has something better in mind. So go into the world, go into college. The class of 2018, La Lumiere students who never leave behind your L's, do go out. Do remember the kindnesses of others. In your own place, manage your relationships with care, with love. Think about success, not only in terms of your own achievements, but do enjoy it. But think about how God always defined that achievement. And finally, invoked or not, God is there with you. So go with God.
Head of school, Mr. Kronk, and Chairman of the Board of Trustees, Connie Falcone, La Lumiere class of 1983, will now present the diplomas to the graduating class of 2018. Franklin Okechukwu Agunani. Caroline Ann Bates. Elise Marie Benke. Grant Michael Buechler. Angelina Gwendolyn Billies. Chase Evan Brandt. Jack Elliott Breitowich. Ronald James Brown, Jr. Tiger Elijah Kreckler Campbell. Chen Zifei. Chu Vu Kain Zuong. Isabella Veronica Connor. Megan Marie Daly. Joshua Paul D. St. Jean. Drew Nicholas Dunafin. Olivia Rose Dibbing. George McLean Eisenhower. Sarah Jane Gillen. Daniel Anthony Goldrick. Joshua Dean Grant. Clayton Joseph Harold. Kate Hirschberger. Hua Chuyang. Kayvon Mesba Jelinas. Shannon May Janya. Zhang Wanting. Zhang Yifan. Elizabeth Grady Kennedy. Kobayashi Hideaki. Alexander Nicholas Kiken. Aine Asia Kura. Li Uli. Maxwell Reed Leininger. Sasha Emily Lubashevsky. Natalie Rose McGuckin. Mide Takashi. Hassan Rahman Nasser Kataliwala. Evan Frank Odar. Emily Marie Path. Ethan Daniel Path. Shivani Sachin Patel. Anna Prohoitska. Chi-Chi. Trevelli Denzel Ratcliffe. Cassidy Nicole Rare. Grace Estelle Renbarger. Reina Paula Rodriguez. Jonathan Noah Rogers. Nicholas Quinton Rogers. Trent Joseph Shermer. Lucia del Carmen Secaida del Cid. Einish Prafula Shintre. Ramon Ranil Singh. Emily Margaret Smith. Barrett Robert Stone. Trong Nam Len V. Martin Joseph Whalen III. Walker Lewis Robleski. Wu Ching Yuan. Wu Tong. Shua Chi Hao. Maximilian Joseph Zacone. Song Chen Kai. And now join me in a round of applause for the entire graduating class of 2018.
You can get them later. It's okay. They'll still be there. Okay, two more things before you all melt. Last night, we presented the Lumiere Medal to each of our graduating seniors. I explained then that it's a tradition that goes back to the very first class here, and it signifies not a requirement that they've met or a credential they've earned, but that they are now and always will be family. It is also a custom, although not done every year, that at graduation we award this same medal to a member of the Lumiere community whose contribution to this place is worthy of special recognition. Roxanne Cooper, could you join me on stage? Now, you wouldn't believe how hard it was to get Rox to agree to be inside this event today rather than racing around campus, seeing that every last detail was just right. And that's typical of Roxanne. She's never in the spotlight. She does the things we all take for granted at the crack of dawn and after lights out. She makes this place run and does it with two key ingredients I wish were more common in our society: personal commitment and a positive attitude. Roxanne's work often involves cleaning up after all of us when we're at our worst. If ever there were a job that might lend itself to frustration, to getting worn down, to venting or griping or taking it out on others, it would be hers. And yet here's Rox, day in and day out, making this place look great, with a smile on her face, with a spunky spirit, and with that trademark raspy laugh. Perhaps her most challenging assignment, however, is dealing every day with Jay Miller. Roxanne, in addition to this medal, I'm sure you're also a saint. Thank you not only for everything you do, but also for showing each one of us how to be. In a place that seeks to instill character in its students, Roxanne, you are a master teacher. All right, final thing. You guys can grab a quick seat. I promise this will be quick. Almost every time I speak to one of our students, I say something along the lines of, it's your school as much as it is mine. Lumiere reaches its potential only to the extent that each member of our community demonstrates a sense of ownership. When you care about something, you invest yourself in it. Seniors, you have lived this out during your time here to such an extent that I am legitimately nervous for next year. What will this place be like without you? But that's not for you to worry about. We will soldier on, and in fact, you've modeled this ownership so well. I'm confident that the students who will follow in your footsteps will rise to the occasion. My one request of you is this: don't stop. When you get to college, when you land a job, when you put down roots in a new community, buy in. Make it yours. Ask more of yourselves and of those around you, just like you did here. Live out the Lalu virtues Lily spoke about today. You may find it's a little harder in a different, most likely bigger community. It will be daunting to start from scratch. But be the catalyst anyway. You've seen firsthand what's possible when you put yourself out there. Meanwhile, your La Lumiere family will be here cheering you on every step of the way. Class of 2018, represent us well.